Hello, everyone. This is Alamjeet Flora from Pothos Events. Welcome to the Wednesday Talk Show. The Wednesday Talk Show is brought to you by Pothos Events every Wednesday. You can see us on our Facebook page, on Instagram, as well as also visit our website www.pothosevents.com. Today, in the world of distraction, mindfulness is a practice. The practice of paying attention in the present moment and doing it with non judgment. Over the last 30 years, this practice has been thoroughly researched and successfully implemented in hospitals, businesses, education, and the military. Giving you an example of military, I think our mind is just like that. All the thoughts go left, right in our head, and as a part of this battalion, we are the commander. We can command our mind to stand at ease or say the commanding word attention. Saying attention is when we remind, command, and direct our mind to focus on a specific thought process or action. Once we know these actions to be taken, we march towards them and we lead this march with command and authority. This attention on the command leads to completion of our task and attaining a feeling of victory, which in turn enables us to capture more posts, and of course, we are rewarded with self belief. Mindfulness improves mental health, helps relieve stress, treat heart disease, lower blood pressure, reduce chronic pains, improve sleep, and elevate gastrointestinal difficulties. Today, I'm glad that we are going to talk about this very important topic with Dr. Shubha Lakshmi Kumar. She's a PhD, founder of Bell the Mind, which is a mindfulness meditation project for people who want to lead fulfilled and meaningful lives. Shubha Lakshmi has been practicing mindfulness for over 10 years now and did her Vipassana, the 10-day silent meditation retreat, in 2008. She has developed programs that help you be mindful, productive, and enjoy better relations with your boss, your spouse, your friend. These are neither religiously inclined nor have a keep away from religion format. Shubha Lakshmi has a doctoral degree in education for sustainable development and believes in practicing mindfulness helps in converting our good intentions of saving the planet into actions that save the planet. In her previous roles, Subbalakshmi has been a country project manager for India with over 12 years of experience in leading, designing, and implementing projects related to sustainable development, child rights, and global issues in over 100 schools and colleges in Mumbai and Pune in partnership with universities and organizations in United Kingdom and Kenya. Before that, she was a teacher educated with a short stint as a principal for 10 years in a reputed teacher training college in Mumbai. She applies her mindfulness to teaching, conducting workshops, coaching, writing healthy eating, and relationships. I'm so proud to welcome Dr. Shubha Lakshmi Kumar today at our Wednesday talk show. Hi, Shubha Lakshmi.
Hi, Alamjeet, and thank you so much for that introduction, such a detailed introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I tried my best. Thank you so much for coming to our show and talking about this very important topic, a subject that we know that has been a lot in talks, but it's nice to know from an expert, like what are the steps that we can take, and I hope to discuss this with you today. So please tell us more about yourself and about Bell the Mind.
You have said the most of it, so that's really nice of you. I've started as a teacher, and then I went on to become a teacher educator. I was teaching training teachers, and then I went on to for about 10 years I was training teachers. And then I started my own organization and was working in partnership, as you said already, with organizations in UK and bringing into the curriculum real global issues, so that breaking the wall between the school and their life. So kind of bringing issues which are very important into the classrooms. And somewhere around 2008, when, as I was also going through a lot of difficulties with relationships, with finance, and So at that point of time, overwhelmed with family and generations up and the generation below. So kind of, that was a time when I was too overwhelmed with so many things to do. So that's when I went to just took 10 days off and went for a Vipassana. And that was quite life-changing. When I came back, I really felt I got that kind of a power to process what is happening in my life and to deal with whatever life throws, kind of, as the cliche goes. So after that, yes, I was practicing meditation quite regularly, and like general habits.
I think we're having trouble with the internet. We'll try to fix this.
Can you hear me now?
Hi, Shiva. Hello. We did have a
Can
little
you hear
lag
me?
in what you were saying due to the internet connection. Yeah, you can please continue.
Yeah. So yes. So after that, when in 2015, when I was doing my PhD, and I had developed a business where I had written math content for primary math, and when that was on, my husband suffered a stroke, and again, I got thrown back into a stage where I needed meditation to help me out. But this time I started meditating on my own. I started reading more about meditation. I was also doing my PhD then. So I started reading more about meditation, did a lot of courses where about meditation, psychology, meditation and Buddhism, psychology and Buddhism, and began to understand why the mind behaves in a particular way and why and what is it that makes us behave in a particular way. So this helped me to learn a lot about. This time there was a lot of interest about how it works, why the mind works in a particular way. And that's when Bell the Mind was born. So I felt that with my background in education, I could help people to learn how to be more mindful. And that is how we developed courses on in 2017 with mindfulness. The Bell the Mind was born, and we developed a lot of courses which were very successful. We started with the Declutter Your Mind and Body before Diwali, and which was quite successful. It was a 21 days course. Then we did a 15-day course for students who are getting overwhelmed with how they should be studying, using the growth mindset, helping them to understand that you just don't give up because you don't understand something, and as you learn more, there are more neurons which fire, and you can understand even complicated concepts. So that was also a very good program of ours. And then general programs where with general people were helping them to understand what is mindfulness, how their mind works, and how they can, using this knowledge, how they can change their behavior, modify their behavior, move towards what they want to be and towards their goal. So that's how.
Exactly. That's what my next question was for you. That what is mindfulness and how can it help us being more productive? So, if you can throw some light on that.
Okay, before I start with this, I just want to give you a small exercise for a minute. So, just for a minute, I want you to sit straight, not very straight, a comfortable straight, but alert. Close your eyes. Don't move much, and pay attention to your breath. Just place your attention on the entrance of your nostril, as if you're a guard there, and watch the air come in and go out. Just watch it. That's it. You don't have to change your breath. You don't have to change your breathing speed or anything. Just watch it with curiosity. Okay. Yes, your mind might wander, and if that happens and you notice, just bring it back to the breath. Okay. So your time starts now. Okay. Slowly open your eyes. And if this was an interactive session, I would be asking each one of you what you experienced. But maybe Alamjit, you might, I don't know if you were already thinking, oh my God, the show is on and what are we doing here and getting
I was
anxious.
actually thinking
That 1
that, like,
minute might have seemed like eternity.
yeah, I actually was thinking that. I'm like, I hope my viewers are wondering what is she, but yeah, it was
Exactly. So,
also very difficult. Mm,
so when you're sitting for a minute like this, I mean, of course, this is it's a live show and it's a little anxious for you. But
yeah,
otherwise, when you're sitting, even if otherwise when you're sitting, your mind begins to wander. So when
yes,
you sit to, for example, meditate, within seconds, you're going to begin to wonder, oh, what is in the gas? What am I going to wear tomorrow? Oh, what should I be cooking tomorrow? Or oh, somebody's going out. So there
yeah,
are distractions, and they could be external. You could hear a sound, or you could have a smell, or whatever that could trigger off some thoughts, or you could have an internal sensation like a restlessness. Like now, probably you must have felt restless. Oh my God, what's happening? So any of these internal sensations or external emotions like anger or anxiety or getting upset, which trigger into thoughts, and then thoughts multiply them. So this is what happens. So we are not able to sit still and just be with the breath. I mean, breath is just one example. It could be anything. You could focus on whatever work you're doing or anything. So you're not able to do it without something at the back of your mind telling you something or the other. So, first of all, two things are there where mindfulness is concerned. What you did was a small meditation exercise. Mindfulness is placing your attention where you want to place it. So, you want to place your attention, you want to finish an assignment. So, you want to place your attention on that assignment and finish it. So, that's one part of it. So, and then you get distracted, and each time you get distracted, you just bring your attention back. Second thing is, while doing this, you notice what you tell yourself. Are you, constantly judging yourself? Are you saying, "Oh my God, I'm not able to concentrate," or "This is not something I can do," and you give up? Or are you, when things are different? Like yesterday, I could do it, but today I can't do it. I don't know why. So are you, constantly comparing, not accepting differences, or opening things to different perspectives, different ideas? So you will notice it so there are two aspects of mindfulness. One is the focusing attention aspect, and the second is being kind, compassionate, and not being judgmental. So these two aspects come hand in hand when you talk about mindfulness. So just now we practice focusing on the breath. Now you can practice even when you're playing with your child. You can practice when uh, if you're studying something. So you can see when you're studying how many times like when I was doing my PhD, I would keep a timer for an hour and I would sit there to write up my PhD. And I would actually, whenever my mind would wander, I would write down, like, 2 o'clock, 2:10, thinking about what to do tomorrow, or thinking about what questions my viva might, something about the future, something about the past, or why did I waste. So all those, when you write it down, that's another. So you are more aware of where your mind is going. So that's what mindfulness is about. It's as simple as that. It's just putting your attention where you want it to, and when it wanders, to get it back without feeling, all messy about it. That's what mindfulness is.
yeah. I like what you said. It's like being compassionate also towards yourself, because generally we start beating ourselves up for doing
Yes.
anything. We wander
Yeah.
around, which I think.
In fact, if we spoke the things we spoke to ourselves to somebody else, we would come out as very cruel,
Yeah.
So the things we tell ourselves, that's the
True. So we also talk about, meditation, which you also spoke about. It helps you in mindfulness. So are there any other ways to learn it, like, or is it just meditation? Like, do you
No,
use?
yes. I just mentioned now that while you're taking an activity, just take a notepad and just Write down
Yeah.
whenever your mind wanders, notice it and bring it back. So that is actually mindfulness in action. You're actually writing it down. There are other cues. You can give yourself visual cues. For example, sticking post-it notes on places where, routine activities. Routine activities are the best to practice mindfulness. So you can put post-it notes, say, let us say, near your sink where you're brushing your teeth. You can use your non-dominant hand to brush your teeth so that you can notice more. And then while you're cooking, you can put a small note there, be mindful. So you're focused, your attention is on your cooking activity. You can have hearing cues. For example, the bell, if you hear a bell or the doorbell. In fact, I do this when I do it to teachers. I tell them that when you hear the bell, it's a trigger. So you feel like, oh my God, I have to now go to class. I have to go to class. So now this is an intention. So instead of that, you just hear the bell and you say, take a deep breath. And I say, now I have an opportunity to go and talk to or influence a group of children. And then you pick up your books or whatever and you go to the class. So you can use these you can train your mind to become mindful, even with these touch cues, for example. When you hold your child's hand, how do you feel? So immerse in that feeling. Get that feeling. When you hold your child's hand, how do you feel? Calm, you feel nice. Okay. Or when you're stroking your pet, you feel there's a feeling of, so get to that feeling. And once you practice that feeling, you can intentionally practice feeling nice and calm by being with your pet. Once you do that, then it can become an automatic habit. So next time you hold your child's hand, you're more present with your child. So you can do this with smell, with tastes, especially mindful eating is a big thing now. So you can pick up when you're eating something, savor it. So whenever you're doing a task, you have a starting point and an ending point. So now you're going to sit to eat, take a deep breath. Children nowadays, they take a picture of whatever they're eating. So use that to, kind of be grateful, to be thankful, take a deep breath, be present. So, you can link it. Like I said, it's a cue. So you take your phone to take a picture of what you're going to eat. And that's also the time I would link it to, I would say, okay, whilst you're doing that, say thanks that you have a phone, say thanks that you have food to eat, and be more mindful about what you're eating. Savor it, the food, even in your mouth. You've already enjoyed it with your eyes. Now, with all your senses, you enjoy it. So you can do that. But with experience, I would say that meditation helps you kind of fast forward this. So meditation is on the mat, but it's a practice. It's like, let us say, if you have, say, this is your attention. If you say, if I take something like this, okay, now this is, if I take this pen holder, this is your attention, and I'm asking you to place it. I did ask you to place it near your nose. I said you observe your breath, but as you're doing it, your attention will automatically move far away. It might go to a sensation. Maybe there's an itch on your shoulder. It might go to a thought on your head, okay, or some sound which is there. So what you do is, when you notice it, you just bring it back to your breath, right? So when this bringing back of the attention to your breath, this movement of your mind is like a push-up. What do you do to strengthen your arms, or you do a push-up, isn't it? So each of this is a push-up. So each time you bring your attention back is a mental push-up. So this is an exercise. So that's why I recommend meditation along with all these others. We do have workbooks which we give students, especially when they have this exam. So where they note when they feel like studying, what is the time they are more attentive to what they are studying, or what is the time when they are very distracted. So make these. So once you notice, you become aware. When you're aware of your own thought processes, your own patterns of thoughts, then you are able to change in the direction you want to. You're able to pay attention to what you want to. So you're much more conscious of what you're doing.
Yeah, very, very helpful tips, Shiva. It's like we know, but it's just a matter of practice that you
It's
subconsciously.
practice. Actually,
Yeah,
we all know this intellectually.
yeah,
We intellectualize a lot.
yeah,
We read
exactly,
more about how to have a good body more than actually do something about it. So,
exactly.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's in the same way, it's about the mind.
Yeah, and it's also persistent. You need to be like constant also. Like somewhere you may do it
Yeah.
for 2 days and then
Consistency. Yes, yes, yes. You have to
consistency
be
is also
consistent. You have to
a big,
practice
big part.
every day. I would say don't miss more than 2 days in a row. You're allowed to miss one day. And
Uh-huh.
instead of missing it out, do for 1 minute. So whenever we tell, we have these 15 days or 20 days program, we tell them try not to miss. And in case you miss, you just do 1 minute. Just sit for a minute. So
True.
so then you're not missed it. And don't miss 2 days continuously ever. So that's the
Yeah.
rule, kind
And
of.
I would like to emphasize here to our viewers also, we are talking about mindfulness because we do a lot of, dieting and all these things that we are, into to keep ourselves healthy. But this is so, so critical. And
And we do these dieting and other things also quite mindlessly. We just do whatever
exactly,
you read here without applying or understanding your own body and mind.
exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. So when like you said, when we are mindful, we take the proper actions. We understand how our body is reacting quite immediately. Because we are
you
mindful. So
observe more.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was like great, Shubha. It's good to take it forward also.
Thank you.
Now you did speak about talking to students and teachers and all of them, but as parents, how do you think like we can be mindful with our children? How will that help? How, give us some tips.
First of all, you need to be mindful to help your children to be mindful. I mean, you can't help your child to be mindful if you are, on WhatsApp half the time when your child is talking to you, or you're busy with your office work when your child is talking to you. You cannot
True.
expect your child to be very mindful. So, first and foremost, you need to be mindful. So then once you are more attentive, you pay more attention. I'm using the word mindful. What I mean also is being more observant, being more rational, being more understanding, compassionate. All these come with being mindful. So if you are paying more attention to what your child is saying, if you are um, paying attention to the moods of your child, if you're alert when the child comes in from school, whether the child is uh, behaving the same way every day, or today is different and yesterday he was slightly different. So observe these differences and observe. You're more likely to be to tune into your child's mood and understand things that they say to you, or even things that they may feel but not say to you. So it's like um, it's like being a very observant person. So when you're observant, you are able to understand your child more. Another thing, you need to also understand what is it you focus on your child. I mean, if you're constantly comparing your child with others, or if you're constantly looking for grades and looking for things which mindlessly everybody is going for grades, so you are also going. I want to give you an example. My daughter is dyslexic. So she used to struggle with reading, and when she was in seventh or sixth, I think fifth or sixth, we knew that she was dyslexic. At first, even I couldn't be able to accept the fact that she wouldn't be able to read fluently, and but I could see her struggle. I could see her work very hard. I could see her doing her best. So what we would do is we would not go to school to even collect our reports, because I knew collecting report cards would be kind of for her quite where everybody is comparing marks and this, and I knew that's not her. So we would just send my parents to collect. We would say, and that is the day we would go out and we would say, okay, your year has ended, you have done well, you have gone to the next class, let's celebrate. But we never even, in fact, my parents would say, your report card is lying here for so many days, you don't want to see it. We said, no, we don't want to see it. Because that's where, the effort is rewarded. When we talk about growth mindset, where the effort is rewarded. So you be mindful about what is it you want to reward. Do you want to reward the grades? Do you want to reward intelligence? Do you want to reward smartness? Or do you want to reward effort? So decide what is it you want to reward, and consciously you uh, reward that particular activity. So here, what I would like to say, so mindlessly, everybody is sending for classes, so you also send and make the child, do not have any independent play or independent study. Instead, you, after one class, the other class, the swimming class, and there's this badminton, and after that, there's some reading club, and then so you are fixing your child's life without giving an opportunity for the child to have some independent play, some time to do things which they like to do, they enjoy, not for the sake of examination, not for being evaluated. So, like, my son was very much interested in cars when he was small, and what I did was I brought a lot of questions and downloaded some worksheets and gave him, and he just lost interest. I just killed his interest in cars by putting one sheet where I was evaluating his interest. So evaluation kills learning sometimes. So we need to be aware of these things as parents, as teachers. So need to be aware of how the child is feeling in the class. I mean, when we have a cold or we are unwell, we can't pay attention. We get distracted when there is a noise outside. We can't teach. So how can you expect 40, 50 children all to have the same kind of attention paid to you when you are teaching? And awareness will help you to understand these things better and deal with those children better as teachers, as parents. So so you understand that there are moods, so you can help children to acknowledge whatever mood they are in, acknowledge the emotion that they're feeling, name the emotion. Instead of yelling, name it. I am angry with you. I'm upset because of this, this, and this. See what you have done. It has made me do these things. That's better than yelling at them, shouting at them, saying things which you don't mean, and afterwards rewarding them, bribing them, and because you felt bad because you said things you didn't mean. So then you're negating the whole thing. So it also helps you to communicate better with your child, with your student, with your colleague. So, yeah.
Wow, Shubha, thank you for sharing your story. Truly inspirational. The way you handled, I'm sure, like, we all parents need to be more aware. Yes, there is a rat race of grades and things like that. Everyone has got trapped in that.
I'm not against going, but then you need to understand your child, help them to make the effort.
Exactly.
And once they've made the effort, acknowledge that effort which they have made.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then the grades will come. And if they don't come, it's okay. I mean, you accept it or work harder, whatever.
Exactly. I think, there is time now that we also give our child, equal grades for the things that they're excelling in and they're talented in. So that's good. We are short of time, but I have one question, because we are in this pandemic situation right now. So what can be a mindful help in reducing stress in this COVID, pandemic time? So do you have any tips for us?
Yeah. See, what is stress? Stress is the difference between what you want and what you have. It is the difference between what you want to be and what you are now. It is the difference between, so it's the difference between now and something that you desire. Now, staying in the present. For example, I even for this pandemic, when we did our courses, yes, we can't go out. Yes, we can't go to see a movie. But can you watch a movie at home? Can you share screen and watch a movie with your friend? Can you have a chat with your friend on, like this, like what we are doing? So, and the habit of sitting at home has compelled us to come out with various means of. Teachers have found various means of making their children interact with them. Teachers have found ways of making learning experiential in our own pre-primary class. Now we tell the parents in advance, get the stuff from your home and let the child experience smells, tastes, in the pre-primary. So there is so much of scope for finding the good things which you can do and enhance whatever you're doing. Now, when it comes to so if you cannot go out, see, I read something today. We pray for our situation to change. We have this pandemic situation. We want it to change, but we don't realize that maybe the situation is designed for us to change. So maybe we need to change. See, for creative thinking, no, you remove one thing. For example, for cooking, creative cooking, they say now you can't use onions or you can't use oil. Let's see what you will do. So in the outdoors, can you bring some plants in? Can you make a small place where there are some greenery so that you can you can talk to your friends, you can have calls, you can make eye contact with modes like these and then talk to them. So accepting what you can, but not blindly. Accepting what is happening with a view to changing it and doing what you need to do to make the situation better. So don't accept it. Don't say, okay, it's gone, I can't go, so I can't do anything. Instead, okay, how can I use my creativity to connect, to go out, to meet people, to do whatever is required. So this is what is required. Most people ask me, we don't feel like working from home. We find it. It's because our mind is, created. Our mind loves routines. So when we go out to work, we dress up, we get up, we have a shower, we have breakfast, we get out of the house, we, use some mode of transport to get to the place. Already your mind is set to go there, sit and be fresh for working, to doing your assignments, or if a teacher for going for class or whatever. Now, straight away from bed, sometimes you jump into your laptop and you start. Then your mind is refusing to accept these things. So create a routine even at home. So do the same things what you would if you were going out, and then find that routine, dress up. A lot of people tell me now they work in their pajamas, and when they have to go to work, now their jeans have become very tight for them or even too stiff for them to wear. So yeah, so we're getting used to, comfortable clothes. And so getting back into the formal thing is a little difficult. So, but try and do that, dress up, sit with that mindset, and your mind will not, in fact, it is already, many people have already got into the routines now quite well, and quite, the mind changes, and it adjusts very fast to change also when you keep doing it. So consistently, if you're sitting at home and working, you get used to it and you start building some routines towards it.
Yeah, true. Very helpful.
I would recommend taking deep breaths, being mindful whatever you're doing, and doing whatever you're doing with a rational mind, not because everybody is doing it. So focus, what is it that you want to attend to? Where is it you want to get to? What are the things you want to change? So once you have an idea of where you're going, you will take a step towards it rather than moving away from it. So mindfulness, being mindful helps you to do that. It helps you to be rational, compassionate, not beat yourself down. So that is what I would recommend. Take some deep breaths.
Yeah. Lots of deep breaths now. We know that that is quite helpful. To even start a routine, a daily routine with that. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So thank you. They were really good tips. And we know, Shubha, you conduct very good workshops. We would like to in future work on that with you. So
Sure.
Let's see how we plan it in future. But thank you so much for today. Amazing tips. I can see the viewers' comments. They are so happy with the clues that you have given. So thank you. We'll take this a long way in our life.
Thank you, Alamjit. Yeah.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye. And that was Shubha Lakshmi Kumar, PhD, founder of Bell the Mind from Pune, joining us. She gave us such amazing tips. And we look forward to doing more, workshops with her, because we know that we constantly need some guidance to get better in life and for our family as well as for work in general. Next week, we have Mr. Shamik Ghosh, who is a co-founder and CEO of Trust Trace. Trust Trace is a digital platform for product traceability and transparency, and it enables large and small fashion and food companies answer very fundamental questions that consumers are asking. Where the product is made, who has made it, how it has been done. Trace's mission is to help responsible production and conscious consumerism. So we are very glad we're going to be talking on a very, very important topic next week also, which is very futuristic. Mr. Shamik Ghosh himself is going to be with us joining, and we're going to talk with him a lot more about the future. So thank you so much for today. Join us again next week, and we will see you on the other end. Till then, have a great, great, great week. See you next Wednesday. Bye, everybody.